Norb, good to
Hi.
see you.
Hi. How are
This
you?
is pretty good. This is Bill.
Happy New Year.
You too. Now, there you go. I can see you now, and I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Oh,
I'm on mute, I think, but
no,
I
no,
press
you're
this.
not on mute,
I
but you
know.
just turned
Okay.
off your camera, so we
I'm
can't
holding
see
the
your
space bar
face.
down. That's why I'm not on mute. Okay. Good.
Okay, there you are.
Yep.
How are things up your way weather-wise?
Oh, we're in good shape. We didn't get anything.
Oh, I would have thought that stretch of Michigan was getting the really beat.
No, it's south of us.
Oh,
Indiana,
okay.
Ohio, Maryland. My daughter lives in Maryland, and she said, and I talked to my grandson this at about 1 o'clock. He said they had 6 inches. Yeah.
There's Bill Gebhard from Florida.
Yes, sir.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I beat feet out of there late last week.
Now, what side of the state are you on again?
On the Gulf side, I'm south of Tampa near Bradenton.
Oh, okay, right.
Hi, Bill.
And there's Jim Blanchard.
How are you?
Or
Happy New Year.
Hi.
so far everybody's doing okay. We'll see how many people we get this evening. That's Stas coming on board. There's Stas. We can see you.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Right.
Right.
All right, but I need to turn it louder. Let me get here.
And Frank Marfia is joining us. There he is.
Hello, guys.
Good evening,
Bill.
Frank.
Hey, Albert.
Are you over in Chicago right now?
I am. Yeah, we're not going to our place in Wisconsin until April or May.
Ah, okay.
Last year was a bust because of all our illnesses. My wife and I were really sick a lot,
Oh dear.
but we're improving.
Norb, it looks like you've shut off your camera again. There's Albert.
Good evening.
My Zoom text technology interferes with the video, I think. Because I didn't do anything to turn it off.
Ah,
Is there an agenda tonight?
not really.
Okay, that's fine.
Just whatever anybody wants to say. Hey, Al, you're in a really lit room.
Oh, the walls are kind of light colored. Sorry.
Ah, okay.
Bill, are you in Florida? Bill Gebhard?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Okay, good.
Hey, how about those Lions?
Hey,
All right.
Well,
Convincing win.
it was.
yeah, it was.
I hope they go all the way. They're really way overdue. Not only to be in the Super Bowl, but to win it.
Yeah.
Did you?
You talk about the Bears, Frank?
Yeah, I did. It's been a disappointing year, but
They won.
they won and they beat Green Bay. That's their big rival. So
Yeah.
Time in a millennia.
yeah, and if they steal I hope they do, the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll be a lot better next year.
I saw a headline tonight that they have asked to interview McCarthy from the Cowboys.
That's a mistake.
Yeah,
I don't think he would be a good
Is
manager.
Jerry gonna pay for him?
I have no idea how that's going to work, but I just saw that line that the Bears have requested to be able to speak to Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's a mistake.
that McCarthy.
If they would go ahead and build a stadium, they'd be even more attractive. They've got 200 acres out in Arlington Heights that they own now. And they're feuding with the local school
Someone
district
shut the back
out there,
door.
over taxes.
We locked man out.
This is the first time ever that my wife and I have actually tuned in to watch the Lions on TV.
You're not a
My son
football
was
fan?
at the game last night, so.
Oh, good.
As is
Al,
he-
are you in the state capitol? That's why you're wearing a hat?
No.
Where in heck are you?
I'm in my dining room. I just wanted you to know I still had my Lions hat from way back.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
Did any of you see what the cost of a Super Bowl ticket is running right now?
No, I'm guessing over 1,000, maybe 5,000.
It was almost $6,400.
Oh my God. So for a family of 4, we're talking 20 grand or more.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially if you want popcorn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A hot dog.
And that's not counting hotels or travel or anything else. That's just the ticket.
I have a friend who has a 3-ticket. He waited 24 years from when he was 12 years old to 36 before he got some kind of ticket to the Packers package. That's only 3 games a year. And he was in a long waiting list. And so every day, the 3 games he goes up to Green Bay for, he has to stay 2 days in a hotel. The hotels will not let him stay one night
Mhm.
because they want their money.
Oh, yeah.
But he's okay with that because they have a good time.
You know, kind of changing the subject, but staying with Bill and his comment about buying popcorn or whatever. It was interesting this year because I work at the Michigan Stadium for the football games
Mhm.
and also for other sporting events too, such as women's gymnastics, which blows my mind. But the point is that they're selling beer and wine at these. They're allowed to do that.
Really?
And I think a can of beer at a football game is like $12 for a Coors. I can't tell you if it's a 12 or 16 ounce. And since based on where I'm positioned in the stadium and that, it's almost directly across from the women's and the men's restrooms. And I could say that for the men, they could wait an entire quarter just to go to the bathroom. And I think that's incredible. You know, like when the tickets are like, I think somebody like $75, that you'd miss a quarter of the game at least, with you know, just waiting in line to go to the bathroom. It's just bizarre. However, if any one of you were in that state at Michigan Stadium, if you see me, I could take care of you and get done a lot faster and a lot cleaner, John. So just see me in case. But just as an aside, this didn't happen this year, but last year, Michigan played Bowling Green in a game, like not a non-Big Ten game. And just at the start of the second half, this guy got hurt for Bowling Green. I mean, they were bringing the cart out and everything. And where I'm at is I'm in an area that has 6 elevators. I'm really kind of blessed because I have 2 monitors and I'm inside and you know, if it's cold, it's I got heat. If it's warm, I get air conditioning, which is I'm there to help the handicappers and people get up and down the stadium and that. So this was like, so even there was no one in our area. There were 6 elevators. It's like about the size of 2 garages. And there was this couple standing watching the monitor. And they husband, their wife and husband, he had a Bowling Green shirt on. So the guy I work with, he asked him, "Do you know who that is?" I said, "Yeah, it's my kid." And I was just stunned. I mean, to think that you would be, you'd see your kid on national TV, and that, and well, the thing is too, that it's really hard to get down to the field, and the parents want to see their kid and everything. And we helped arrange that, but that was just bizarre. I mean, we're in row 77, and they're down on the field. So, thankfully, I think everything he came out well, but everything, but it was really, I've never had that happen before.
Does anybody know if any of our compatriots are really ill, not doing well health-wise? I've never seen Neal Mullally. Does anybody know where Neal is or what he's up to?
He was
He
a
was the one who
judge.
contacted me when I first rejoined you guys.
Yeah, he was a judge for a while. I don't know if he still is.
Is he in Muskegon, Stash?
Right.
In there? Right.
Yeah,
I
he's-
think someplace around there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know he reads the alumni update.
Okay.
As does his brother
Yeah.
John, who was in the, well, I think he was, Norb,
with
was he in
Norb,
your class?
John was in my class,
Right, yeah.
61.
He loved basketball.
And I got a real nice letter. I get a nice letter every year from Jim Hanick's wife. I spent a day with Jim and Elizabeth Hanink back in 2005 when I was working for the federal government. After I finished an assignment in LA, I visited them and spent the whole day with them.
Oh, that's nice.
It was a nice visit, really nice visit. They've got 5 adopted children, and
Wow.
yeah, they didn't have any of their own, but they adopted 5. I think they're from the same family, kind of extended family.
That's unusual.
Yeah. So apparently Jim is slowing down. He's not as active in the running for whatever he was running for before.
Is it governor or what?
No, yeah, well, that was a brief. That was when they had a recall, I think, and he was on the ballot.
Oh,
But he was running for other lower positions too, occasionally, and now he plays a lot of chess and he's slowing down. But we're all slowing. I'm slowing down.
well, he always plays chess.
Well, yeah, that's true. But he's playing even more.
Can I change the subject? I wanted to ask Norm this.
Okay.
Did you know that Father James Swiat passed?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't.
I did.
You
I was
didn't,
aware
right?
of that. Yeah, I said,
Okay.
Oh,
that was circulated, wasn't it? Bill, you sent it out, didn't you?
oh, okay. I
You
Yeah,
did.
yes, you did. Yeah.
Yes, you did. Yeah,
Yeah, because he's in Lansing Diocese, and they
right.
were mentioning our parish that.
But he died in Traverse City. And he was buried in Traverse City, wasn't he?
He might have been, but somehow he was associated with Lansing Diocese.
Oh,
so-
yeah, right.
Right.
He served in the Lansing Diocese all his ministry, I think.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
right.
But yeah, I shouldn't say that. I don't know where he was buried, but the funeral was in Traverse City at St. Francis.
Well, I think he was, because it was strange. I always thought he was my first prefect,
Oh,
And-
okay.
and I thought he was from Kalamazoo, and I found out later
He was. He was.
okay, but he somehow had some connection with Traverse City, but I don't know what it was.
Oh, his family, his siblings, maybe his parents even, but his siblings for sure had a summer home in Northport.
Oh,
And then
okay.
when Jim retired, he retired to Traverse City rather than go to the the plate with their place.
Okay,
That's the way I understand it anyway.
yeah, that makes sense.
I believe so.
Yeah, he served,
My
Jim
name's
served
right
in
here.
Grand Blanc for over 20 years, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mhm.
Hi, Pete.
Again, we're talking about Jim Swiat, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Jim Swiat assisted at St. Thomas More Student Parish in Kalamazoo for a period of maybe a year. And I think it was an informal arrangement of some sort, but no, he handled weekend masses and other on-call periodic stuff. And most of his family, I believe, parents and who lived in Kalamazoo, I think are now deceased. I really didn't know many of his relatives. One or two attended St. Tom's, and had occasional run-ins with him. No, they're all great people, just like Jim. It shows where the stock comes from. And after, and he was involved in some support stuff like that at St. Tom's during the period that we renovated the church, I think, and came back for the dedication of the new facility. And by that time he had was based again in Traverse City. That once in a while he would show up on a weekend, presumably visiting one of his uncles or cousins who lived in town here. And he was most of the time that I saw him, he was quite healthy, or at least looked quite healthy. He involved himself with the parish, and we would chat informally periodically.
Mhm. As I understand it, Jim was originally from Kalamazoo. And I think.
I think that's correct.
Right. And I think Kalamazoo was in the Lansing Diocese at that time. But then
Yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, it
Because
was.
I think Kalamazoo Diocese was created at the same time Gaylord was, wasn't it? In 71.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So when he was, and Jim would have been ordained in 67. So there's a period of 4 years where somehow he probably was assigned to a parish east of Kalamazoo within what remained in the Lansing Diocese. And that's how he ended up serving Lansing Diocese all his ministry. I think that's what happened.
That would make sense. At least part of the time, well, actually, I think right after he was ordained, he was stationed in one of the parishes in Jackson. And I don't know how long he was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So 71 was the year that the Kalamazoo Diocese was created?
That is correct.
Because that was the year that Albert and our parish was sent to Kalamazoo from Grand Rapids Diocese.
That is, yes, it is.
The Douglas, Michigan parish.
Mm-hmm. That and Allegan and Wayland went from Grand Rapids down to Kalamazoo.
Okay.
Wayland's the home of Owen Bieber. He was the president of the UAW one time.
Oh,
Yeah.
Another name that has popped up on Facebook in the last couple of days is, hang on for 1 second. Gotta call this up so I can remember. It's Father Tom Page.
Hmm.
And I think Jim Blanchard, you may have known him.
Yeah, he was a year ahead of me, Bill.
Pardon?
He was 1 year ahead of me at St.
Oh,
Joe.
okay. Right.
And I see him fairly frequently.
Okay. Yeah. And I know that he gets the alumni update. And this was just a picture that somebody had sent in of him and posted him and St. Alphonsus Church on a little posting on the on Facebook. And so I just happened to scan. It came from a Facebook group called Michigan History, and somebody posted it on there, and I spotted that, and I said, you know what, that sounds like the guy that whose name I recall from St. Joe's, and sure enough, it turned out to be him. So
St. Alphonsus was his home parish. That's where he grew up.
Was he a diocesan priest? Because
Yes,
even
they
though
were
St.
Redemptorists there.
Alphonsus was always done by Redemptorists.
Yeah.
I used to go there, or my parents did. I lived on Quimby Street when I first came to Grand Rapids, and right by the railroad tracks. It wasn't too far from there. It was across from St. John's home, or no, St. John's orphanage. It was like across the street from.
It was
St.
close
John's.
to it. Mhm.
Yeah.
I see Bill has his Lions shirt on.
I'm trying to represent even down here in crazy Florida.
Oh, wow.
Hey,
They're playing the Super Bowl in New Orleans, aren't they?
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, so
I
you
have a
won't.
question for Bill Yagerlener. Bill, when we met in Battle Creek, you and your wife were planning a visit to the diocese to look at I guess your
right.
Did you find anything unusual? Or?
Yeah, unusual. Everything dealing with with me and is unusual. Yeah, we got up there, and I had set up ahead of time a meeting with Angela Yondo to see if she could return or recover everything in the file that related to me and my days at the seminary. And it started out, a lot of it, one of the most interesting things I was hoping for was those psychological profiles. And she had said that those records were somehow kind of buried in, and Jim Blanchard, you might know, is there another spot off site where a lot of stuff in the archives is stored? Or
Yes, it's called the dump.
There could be another spot because they have a lot of records in a lot of different locations, and Angela doesn't have a good handle on what records are at which location. So she's tasked with a lot of different things. She also works for the cemetery, the Catholic cemeteries in Grand Rapids, and they occupy about half of her time, and she spends about half of her time with the archives. But
okay.
it depends on who's asking and what their status is
Right.
for what priority it receives.
Do they
Well,
know?
anyway,
I was going to, excuse me, do they know the ones you said, those places, do they know where they are? I mean,
I'm not sure that they do.
oh, okay.
I can shed a little bit of light on this, maybe, because when I was working on the book about St. Joe's, I worked with Father Dan Morrow, who was the archivist at the time.
Oh, okay.
And things were scattered all over the place. He was being a full-time priest and pastor, and he was trying to organize things. So he had some things at the rectory and some things were in the archives. But what I want to share with you is he told me that the files, the student files were all complete except for those who were ordained. Those files were taken out and kept somewhere else. Now that doesn't apply to the situation you're just talking about, but it seems to me, I wouldn't be surprised if they took what you just referred to, the document, the personality profile, or that's not what you called it. What was it?
It was
Yes,
a
he did.
psychological.
I wouldn't be surprised if they took that out because that's more confidential. Although I would think that anything in my file or your file would be considered confidential, except for the person who.
Right, exactly.
who-
So,
who
you know, you can
allowed.
get, you know, set up an arrangement with Angela to get your records. And what I ended up getting was all of the transcripts from high school
Mhm.
and college.
Yours
And
or everyone's?
no, just mine, just
Oh,
mine,
okay.
just mine. And it was really interesting to look at the transcripts in particular, the grades that we would have gotten in each of the classes in our 6 years there. And it's sort of an indication of our our academic strengths and weaknesses.
There would have been a lot of them because there were 8 marking periods, weren't there?
There were what?
Almost once a month.
8 marking periods.
Let's
It's
see.
about once a month.
Yeah.
Well, I think there were,
Quarterly,
you know, I can't even remember. I have to go back and look at those
Maybe
records.
not. Maybe only 4.
Yeah, it could.
I thought it was
I have
quarterly.
one of the records here at my home, and there was a spot in there where the pastor was supposed to sign it and return it to the seminary. But anyway, the transcripts of high school and college were there, and also the application form that I would have filled out in I think it was May of 1960. And then there were other things that were in there that they had to have a copy of baptismal records or baptism,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, confirmation.
Marriage record.
Marriage,
Yeah, right.
marriage records too, yeah.
Mhm.
And so that's what I got, plus a picture of me and that you had to submit as part of the application in 1960.
Right.
And anyway, yes, I got that information. That was very, very interesting from a personal standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
One of
Well,
the
did you-
questions that we had to answer on the application form is why do you want to go to the seminary? And I put down because it seems like a priestly life is something I want to pursue. So that got me in the door.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Right. Duh.
Do you remember taking an entrance exam?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, they started that the first year that I was there, 1956. I started in 10th grade. That's the first year they had an entrance
Wow.
exam. And Father Tomey came up to Cadillac and gave us the exam. I say us, there were half a dozen of us probably that from the northern area that came to Cadillac for that exam. And I passed the exam, obviously, but I don't remember ever seeing it. That would be interesting to look at that. I don't even remember what it was about. What was on it?
I remember that when I took it, it was in the study hall. And right behind me, of course, I didn't know him at that time, was Frank Unger. And we were kind of in the back, and Frank didn't hear all of the instructions, so he kind of whispered to me, what did they say or something like that, and I was too darn scared to talk to him because I thought they'd said I was cheating.
Right.
So that, so that was the first time that I had met Frank, and it's ironic that he is the only person that, he and I are the only person that I'm aware of that remain in the class we kind of represented. But I do remember taking the test, and I think it had math, and it was kind of general, like math, and I think like English or vocabulary and that kind of thing.
Sure.
Never got an answer on the results, so I guess I passed. So
Right.
for them.
Well, it seemed like they
So-
were taking everybody at that era.
Yeah, I know, that's true.
There were 4 from, Albert and I think we had a class of 20 in 8th grade, 12 boys and 8 girls, and 4 boys went to the seminary.
Wow.
But 2 of them left within, I don't know, 30 days.
One never went, and the other one quit the first week.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So 2 of the 4 of us were out early. Albert and I lasted quite a bit longer.
I almost quit the first week. I was really homesick.
Yeah.
I think that was pretty common.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think it's pretty overwhelming. You're 13 years old or 14, and you've never been out of your, kind of where you grew up, and then you're in this, that's pretty regimented and everything else.
Oh, it was for me. I grew up on a farm
Yeah.
in northern Michigan, and get in there with all 200 kids.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was kind of overwhelming. The reason they started the entrance exam, as I recall, is there were far more applicants than what they could handle. I mean, and I went in 1956, and I'm sure there were over 200 students total in the 6 years, and that was before St. Henry's opened. So they were all in the main building. So anyway, that was. I thought that was the reason for that. And they also, when I graduated from high school in '59, that's the first year they gave high school diplomas. They didn't think it was important to do that for some reason.
Well, they were affiliated with a Catholic university. You just got
Right.
a certificate.
Yeah, that's what I got. I got a certificate from Catholic U, and my name's wrong on it.
Right. Oh, wow.
I never needed it, but
So I have a question for all of you. Do you think that it was prudent for them to discontinue taking students as freshmen in high school, or is that a good thing?
I totally oppose that. I think that's the wrong place to start. Certainly with the way it was when I was in the seminary. Now, a boarding school of some kind for boys, focusing on vocation, but having a little more freedom, which is what St. Joe's was in the last few years. That seems more appealing. But of course, it's pretty difficult to go back to that or go to that routine, although I understand that there's at least one seminary in the United States that starts in 9th grade. Very similar, and I read the rules of it, and it was very similar to St. Joe's.
Where's this?
Somewhere out west.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking Montana, but I'm not sure.
Jeez.
In one of the real early bulletins, it stated that students who lived outside of the Grand Rapids area were allowed to board at the seminary, and local students would just commute to classes and things, which I thought was kind of interesting, except for the 6th year. Then they had to reside at the seminary. When they moved to the Burton Street campus, then they had enough room to house everyone. So everyone started housing there at that point. But prior to that, it was, if you were local, you just commuted in.
Oh, sure.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I remember reading that. So that would have been before 1919.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is when they went to Aquinas College, that would have been great for me. I could have walked right down the street. I lived right down the street from the college, so
Where'd you live? What street?
I lived, well, first of all, in Alton and then Lawndale. It was right by,
Okay, yeah,
it was kind of,
okay, I went to Aquinas. I graduated from Aquinas.
well, the Jewish synagogue was 2 houses from us, and then on the other side was the Christian Reformed Church, all within, like less than 5 minutes from where I was at.
And you stayed Catholic?
Yeah. Oh, I had all the denominations right
Yeah,
there.
right.
That synagogue was there for a while before you, it used to be downtown, and then it moved off on just Lawndale and Fulton Street. And Marywood was close to there too.
Yeah, yeah.
Jim, one of the nice things about seeing those bulletins is well, in addition to having in the later years the register of students so that we could see some of our classmates as we moved through the years. We don't have all of them from the times that we were there. I say we collectively being people who were around there in the 60s. So that was interesting. But the other thing that I found really was there was a schedule of, I forget what they referred to it, but rising time was, and the thing that struck me was, well, first of all, none of us had seen that bulletin, so we had no idea what daily life was going to be like. And
Well,
while we were there, rising time was on weekdays was at 6 a.m.
Right.
And on weekends it was, I think, 6:30 or something.
That's right.
But in the 2 issues of that you found from 1930s, the rising time was 5:30.
30.
And
When did they go to bed?
I
Probably
never,
probably 9:30.
I would think so.
It's interesting you mentioned the rising time, because I remember the first night I was at the seminary and Monsignor Felicki was still the rector, and he was telling everybody about the schedule. And he said, you're rising at 6 o'clock and you get to sleep in on Saturday and Sunday to 6:30. I mean, and everybody kind of snickered. The older students did. I mean, sleep in till 6:30. I mean, most of the guys probably didn't get up that early at home, right?
That's true.
I found that going and looking at the bulletins, especially back in the 40s, that they had some strange ideas about what we should wear. They recommended 4 pairs of underwear, but 6 pairs of socks. So I don't know whether you change or you wash things in the sink. I don't quite know, but those underwear had to walk home if you only had 4 pair.
Well, did they tell you to bring deodorant too?
There was nothing mentioned on that, but I found it. There was the mix of 4 underwear to 6 socks. So,
well,
Maybe it
two
was
of
'cause the
the
place-
socks, probably one pair of the socks is for Sunday wear.
Yeah. What about the underwear?
So, yeah, right. I don't know.
maybe you went commando 2 days. I don't know.
I don't remember reading that in the bullet. I know it was there, but I don't remember any details.
Was there ever a discussion about seminarians doing their own laundry? Is that anathema? Is that
Doing
something
what?
only women did back in that era?
No.
We-
All I do is
it would've saved a ton.
you either mailed them to your parents or.
Yeah, I had to mail.
Yeah.
I had to mail laundry to my parents, and
Right.
my home life was pretty chaotic. There was a time when we didn't even have a washer and dryer. It broke down, and
Why?
my father was taking the laundry to a laundromat. And so the laundry was coming back mismatched.
Wow.
Wasn't there a laundromat right across the street from that ice cream place by the seminary?
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think there was a laundromat like like right next door to the seminary almost.
We couldn't use it though.
Yeah, there
No,
wasn't,
but it would
you
make
weren't allowed to
sense.
leave the campus.
The priest laundry was done by the nuns, correct?
Right, yeah. But I was just wondering, it makes sense if you could take advantage of that, but
Right.
somehow.
What saved me
Wow.
was I had an aunt that lived 10 miles south of Grand Rapids. And my
Oh.
mother's sister, and my father persuaded her to pick up and do my laundry. I hope he paid her, but she certainly deserved it. She certainly, in my mind, was a
Yeah.
savior for me because my laundry was coming back all screwed up.
Hmm.
My family.
Speaking of
You know, and
clothes,
you're talking about, you know, the rising and all that. I remember early on when we were in that big dorm and they did it alpha order and, you know, you're on a bunk beds and there was Rudy Zant and Tom Zibikowski. And you had grand silence. So they decided the way they would talk, they said they got caught, but they were saying they were sleep talking. Use that as an example.
Yeah.
That didn't work though.
speaking of clothes, did we have lockers up in the dormitories next to our beds?
No, I don't remember that.
Where did
They-
we
they
keep
were-
our clothes?
Underneath, wasn't there a drawer underneath the bed?
Yeah.
I think there was a drawer, Pete. It was under. Now,
Did we also
now,
have
if you went
lockers?
to, when you went on the other side, when you got to the third year, they had those individual rooms, and I think there was a bureau there, wasn't there? Or a closet, you know?
In the
You know what I'm talking about, those individual
Yeah,
rooms?
I
that
know
were
at
on
the
the,
end of the
I guess the
hallway
east
there.
side, right? What, pardon me?
Did we have lockers downstairs for like winter coats and boots and stuff?
No, I don't remember that.
Where did we
Wait
keep
a
our
minute.
winter
Wait, hold
coats?
on, Pete. You're right.
When
There were lockers, you know, that there was where you put your laundry, that little kind of alcove kind of thing. Weren't there lockers in there where you're talking about? I mean, right
Yeah,
just inside the building?
I think
by,
so.
By the
there were
cortile?
lockers there. Pardon me?
By the cortile?
mhm.
Yes.
Is that what it's called? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what it's
That's
called.
where we put our laundry buckets, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
And I
But
was-
I mean, but the lock, what you're asking about the lockers, and I think they were there, right
Okay.
in that area.
And I was curious, when we went from, in the wintertime, we probably went to the gym for recreation. Did we just run from the building with our sweaters on over into the gym? Out in the
Oh,
cold?
there was lockers. There were lockers there. In fact, the reason
Well,
the
how
lock-
did we get to the gym? Did we dress up to go to the gym or did we run in our school clothes?
you just walked in your regular clothes and then changed there.
That's interesting.
The,
I-
the
I
lockers
bet you-
were not assigned when you went to the gym, but there were enough of them there. The other thing is getting back to the ones we were talking about, those actually, think about it, those were the old lockers for the gym that was in the building. That's why they were there. They were lockers to change. That's the reason they're like a relic of the gym, the old gym, not the newer one.
Right, the auditorium.
Yeah.
I remember lockers in the old freshman dormitory. They were not in the area where the beds were, but it was kind of adjacent to it, next to where the bathrooms were.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yep. There was a.
You know, this is interesting that none of us remember lockers. I remember asking, I was at a gathering one time and I remember I was in one of the corrals and I remember the bed, double bunk.
Bunk bed.
And I was on the lower level, but I do not remember a locker or anything where I kept my stuff.
Well, did you need one? If you only had a pair of socks, you never had to worry about throwing them. That's what they told you.
Well, I had a suit at least. I wouldn't wear that every day. So that
You had to
be
wear
somewhere.
a tie. You could keep a tie. That
Exactly.
is like a lot.
That's another question. Did we wear a tie every day?
Yes.
Yeah. Did we
You had to wear
we-
it for
we had
dinner
suits?
too.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But I
Yeah.
don't really remember.
And
We
then
wore the
along
same
came those
pants and shirt all
clip-on
week,
ties.
every day, all week. We wore the same clothes every day. We had one pair of pants and one shirt we wore every day.
A pair of socks.
I think so. Back in those days, you didn't take showers as often as you do today. Although you probably took a shower just like I did after recreation.
Jim.
Yeah.
That was my daily shower.
Right. I
Yeah.
Yeah, because we weren't allowed to take showers up in the dorms.
That's right.
We could
you were?
the only showers that we had
No, it was in the new building. Bill's right.
There were showers in the main building.
there were, but
Yeah.
we did
You
not
never
have.
could use them.
We weren't allowed to use them.
Really? Oh, I remember taking a shower
I don't
there.
recall where they were.
They were in that big
In a
bathrooms that they had, and
Right.
there were like 2 or 3 of them in there. But
Right.
I mean,
That's true.
we
There wouldn't have been
never.
enough for everybody.
Were they big bathrooms? Because they had three sinks.
Oh, there was like 6 or 8 sinks.
I remember you had to jump out of bed and run there to get a sink in
Yeah,
order to
yeah,
beat
it was
the
a-
time. I mean, you had to wait in line to brush your teeth. Because
Well, you had 20 minutes. Now, come on.
Yeah. You remember the 7-minute bell?
What's that?
there was a time bell. I remember that. Yeah,
When
there
you're
was,
when you're
I
in
remember. Yeah,
during
Your whole
the-
life
in the-
was a
you're in
bell.
the gym or out in the field and the sports.
right.
And 7-minute bell, you have to run into the gym and take a shower and get dressed and get to study all in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
I think by the time you guys were there in 4th and 5th year,
You had 8 minutes.
that was lessened. Well, yeah, when you're in St. Henry's, that didn't apply. That's right. So I only did that for a couple of years. And at St. Henry's, the rules were different.
Well, did you wear the same socks when you were a freshman and when you were in the 2nd year at St. Joe's? I mean, on the St. Henry's?
I don't
Yeah,
remember.
So Bill, the bottom line was you didn't get to see your psychological profile, right?
Yeah.
It probably would tell about some guy that was complaining because he never had a pair of socks. He had a foot fetish. You don't know.
Tell you one more thing about Jim Swiat. I didn't learn this until after 10 years ago, maybe. You know, the rule was very strict about sneaking out to go to the dairy.
Yeah.
The what do you call it?
Millers.
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 Yeah.
Miller's
Yeah.
right. It was on
And
Easter.
Millers, yeah, Millers. And Jim admitted that he sneaked out one night and went there and came back and didn't get caught.
I just remember him. My impression was that he seemed very engaging and very practical. I mean, he kind of had a deep voice. I remember he had black hair and kind of a sturdy guy.
Yep.
He was a nice man, but it was just
Very good.
he had
I
common
think
sense.
I think you described his ministry well too, from what I understand. Although I wasn't
Yeah.
associated with him. In
No,
ministry,
he
but
was just down to earth, nice person.
Yeah. Yep.
Now back up to you, Jim. Just to have you been able to scan in all the bulletins that are available, or it looks like the last 2 from the 30s, you just sort of added them in out of interest to what was going on at that time period, or is what we have what you were able to locate?
No, there are others, Bill. I just grabbed a bunch of them based on what I thought I could handle over a reasonable time frame and did those. And so there are additional ones. I can work on those if you think that there's interest in seeing those.
One thing I noticed is interesting is that they taught like 4 years of Polish and 4 years of German, and I think there was one other language too. I thought that was amazing.
That's 100 years ago you're talking about.
I know, but I mean,
Right,
I
yeah,
just
right.
thought that was pretty
I did-
impressive in a way.
I did too. The first rector, if I remember right, was brought in from Germany.
Well, there was Bishop Haas, and he must have been German. I mean, he was one of the early bishops of Grand Rapids Diocese.
Well, he was a bishop when I went to seminary.
Okay.
So that would have
And
been.
then Bishop Babcock came afterwards.
Short. I could be wrong, come to think of it. Bishop Haas may have died before I started in the seminary, because all I remember is Bishop
Yeah.
Babcock. Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember as a little kid going in grade school, I think there was Bishop Haas. Babcock was newer. He
Right.
came from Detroit, Bishop Babcock did.
Okay. Where did Haas come from?
I don't know.
Yeah. I think he was probably the fifth bishop already. Because
Could be. I mean, the Grand Rapids Diocese was fairly old. I mean, you know.
1882.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah.
it was that old.
It was the second diocese in Michigan. No, it wasn't. It was the third diocese in Michigan. Here's a test for you. Where was the second diocese in Michigan?
Saginaw?
Nope.
All right, hold on.
You'd be
It's probably
surprised.
the UP, Baraga, or
Yeah, Sault Ste. Marie. Sault Ste. Marie was created a diocese in 1858, I believe it was. Bishop and Baraga was the first bishop.
well, that area there is where the Jesuits came, you know, from Canada, or
Right, exactly.
heading west a little bit.
Right. And then when Baraga died, they moved the diocese to Marquette.
Oh, okay.
Back to the curriculum for a second. It was interesting that there weren't, in some of the early years, there was not a clear separation between the high school curriculum, and the 5th and 6th year curriculums. I mean, they were all lumped together. It seems to me that that's the impression that I got. It wasn't until, maybe it was the 30s or the 40s where they made, maybe it was one of those last ones in the 1930s where they made a clear separation between the high school and the junior college.
Right.
I don't know that they ever called it a junior college until before that time. So like there was a note in there that they, at some point, they established a philosophy department that was for the upper classmen. And that was, if you look back at some of the photos, the class photos that Jim was able to put together, back in the ones that go back into the 30s, show people as sometimes there you would see a philosophy 1 class.
Right. You know why?
And a philosophy 2 class.
Right.
So that, but it didn't seem to me that academically they were, and maybe it had to do with the Catholic University affiliations that for the high school, that they wanted to see what exactly was the curriculum for the high school. I don't know. That's a guess on my part. Does that sound rational? Or
I can shed some light on that. And I'm not sure what time period, but the 30s and 40s, somewhere in there, they added 1st and 2nd year philosophy to the seminary curriculum.
Right.
So that they didn't have, when they went to major seminary, it was only 4 years. Part of it was for economics, to save money. And that's why they stayed there and had 4 years of college before going to theology.
You know, the other thing, Norm, what you're saying is that as I recall, they taught logic, and they had introduction to philosophy, and I'm talking about the last two. But they also had, which is really part of this, is the the rhetoric. What do we have? The rhetoric course.
Right.
Which actually the other part of it was the debate. Now, this goes back to like the Middle Ages, but when they started, they had the trivium and the quadrivium. And those were like set things in subject areas like math and language and philosophy, and I can't remember the other one. And I think that what they did is they used that model and kind of refined it to what do you call it? To introduce logic in the sense of philosophy. And part of it is too that the fact that when this all began, like in the 1500s or so, you only had three professions. There were the ministry, but then the other two were medicine and law. And I think the medicine law kind of broke out. In other words, the start of the university system, and the priesthood or the seminary there kind of was driving a lot of this because it was all based on Plato and Socrates.
Oh yeah, yeah. But what I was saying is St. Joe's was an 8-year seminary for a while.
Oh, it was? I didn't know that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. When they
okay.
introduced philosophy 1 and 2,
I didn't hear it that way. I'm
they
sorry.
made it 8 years, right?
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then Father Tomei, for example, was ordained in February and 44, I think, during the war, and so that's another. And they went year round to school, partly to avoid the draft. I mean, that may sound critical, and I don't mean it that way.
Yeah, I understand.
But I think they were. That was part of their motivation.
That makes sense.
They wanted those students to stay there and to be able to finish. And I think economics, as I said before, was part of the decision, part of that decision.
Yeah,
I looked in a little bit into that whole question of exemption during World War II, and seminary or divinity students could get and maintain their exemption status as long as they were going to school full time.
There you go. Yeah.
So during the war years, they had to expand the start date of the curriculum, at least the one for 1945, 46, which would still have been right at the very end of World War II. And the school year for the upperclassmen started in July.
Yeah.
So that kind of explains partly why there were several in the 1940s, why there were 2 graduating classes in there.
Yeah.
The other thing that I found interesting in the curriculum, that kind of goes in with what Dick Galant was just saying, there were just very few classes in what I would call, when I was teaching in the high school, we would refer to them as practical life skills. And that included, I noticed, I think it was sometime in the 1930s curriculum, the 30s, they didn't call it a bulletin at that point, where in the last 2 years they offered classes in bookkeeping and business management and typing.
I noticed that too. Yeah.
That was kind of an interesting, I often wondered, and maybe we don't have anybody, maybe the longest serving guy was Al Wahmhoff. I never was aware of any classes in maybe in the upper seminary or the major seminaries. They actually taught business, like how do you manage a parish.
That was not in the curriculum when I was there either.
No,
it had gone out. It was still in the bulletin, but it wasn't offered.
So a lot of the priests coming out just were sort of tossed into financially and managing a parish without having any clear skills or.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Right,
Didn't Dick Host
right.
comment on that once in one of our calls, that he felt, I don't know, placed in a parish and then not really supported after his placement very well anyway.
Well, I think you might be right, Frank, but I think they've wisened up somewhat, but
They got better.
Yeah,
it
With
is,
the foreign languages, was Greek always part of the curriculum?
I'm sure it was.
I would think
Along
so.
with the French and the Spanish and the Latin and
I don't know when French and Spanish came in. I would bet that came in the 50s. Those two languages.
One
But I
of
don't
the
know.
years, and it might have been that one of those 1930s programs or whatever they called them. I thought it said they had 6 years of Greek,
Well, maybe.
and I thought, well, God,
Well, I
starting out.
think that the thing is that the the New Testament Greek was only a semester that I had, and it seems to me that it wasn't. It should have been a year, I think, because I think they wanted you to really understand the text and everything. Actually, what I could see from it, I didn't like it because it was after Attic Greek. It was kind of like too pedestrian. I know it's Koine and that, but there are things that I don't know what it was. It wasn't. Is it? I'll use the word exact. I don't know if that's the right word, but it was. You could see there was a difference between Attic Greek and the Koine Greek of the New Testament.
Right. I want to add to that, Bill. It's like professional English and language English you speak every day. That's
Right. Oh yeah,
that's why
I understand that,
different.
but
No, I'm just explaining it that way.
Yeah.
But I had 2 years of Koine Greek, so they changed it between when I was there.
I
and
only
you
had
were
like one semester.
Right. Anyway, this has been fascinating, but I need to get
Yes.
going. So
Yeah, I
I'll see
think
you
so.
next time.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, take care.
See you, Norb.
Yeah. Everybody
Bye.
have a good
Bye.
New Year.
Yeah, sure. I have a
Good
general
luck.
question before we call.
Before people sign off, first of all, over to you, Jim. The only pieces or bulletins that I personally were interested in were those of the 60s, because there were a couple of years in there that would have been, like there were just a couple of years in there that I didn't see, and I didn't know whether it was because they couldn't locate him or you couldn't locate him. But those were the years that many of us would still remember, some of our classmates. And it looks like they did away with the bulletin at some point. I don't know if they were still publishing that when you were there.
Yeah, they were, and the last one that I recall, Bill, was 75 or 76, something like that. All of the ones that are housed at the archives, I believe I've sent you copies.
Okay.
If you send me the years you're missing, I can go back and look for them.
Okay.
But I think that's all that they had at the archives.
Right. And great thanks for all the work that you have done on that. I know that how tedious and actually the very first bulletin that I received was from Frank Marfia. It was among the documents that he sent over to me, so I had to scan all of those in, and then somewhere along the line, I say collectively, we became interested in other years worth of bulletins. Some of them came from alumni, and the light that they shined on what life was like in the seminary and who was doing what the faculty that we remember collectively. And at one point, they started actually putting in the academic credentials of the faculty.
They had to do that, I think, because the question, I just want to end this. One, suggestion to Bill. Do you know of a machine called the Scan Snap? Take it down and buy it, because it'll help you get all this stuff scanned in. The second thing and that they might want to find out is, I think all that you're talking about now has to do with accreditation. And who was doing all that? Father Ancona or Father well, Bishop, what's his name now? Bishop Rose. Who was in charge of doing that, I think, is a key to all these changes that you're talking about. Because it's a requirement in putting your bulletins that you have to have the faculty's credentials in that bulletin. That's one of the reasons it's shown there. But those are the two things. One's a suggestion. Check out Scan Snap as a scanning machine. All of you, you'll find it really helpful. Pete, in your business, it'll be really good, I think, if you haven't had it before. No, I'm serious.
I don't have a business.
Well, I mean, you know, legal stuff and making documents and stuff. Oh, you retired?
Yeah, I'm retired. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. But if you
don't
want,
apologize.
oh,
I'm happy.
okay. But any of you that it's just it's not very big, but it can you know, preserve your stuff and do a lot of things with it. So
I kind
Are
of
you-
have a suggestion for a future call. Can we, are the churches in Michigan consolidating? Are some closing and merging with others because of lack of attendance, numbers of
More lack of priests.
lack
yeah,
of priests?
yeah.
But in Chicago, there's a lot of mergers going on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where parishes are selling their land and some parishes are selling their land and their buildings to, I don't know, developers, and
Yeah,
the attendance is way down
yeah.
at many of the Chicago churches.
And this
They
kind of
never
gets
recovered.
to the interest in personal records. I know that in Muskegon, I'm assuming this is the case with other parishes as a whole, each parish maintained its own or kept its own records, academic records and liturgical records, you know, baptisms, confirmations, and all of that stuff. And those physical records were transferred, like in Muskegon, from I think there were St. Joe, St. Jean's, St. Mary's, Lady of Grace, St. Michael's. And Jim,
St.
was
Francis de Sales.
yeah. What they did over time was, as a parish closed, they would send those records on to one of the other existing parishes, and then as the parish that had those records, like in the St. Joseph, St. Jean's parishes were at Our Lady of Grace, and when Our Lady of Grace got, eliminated, then the records were sent down to St. Mary's, and so I was going to ask my sister, who's a member of that parish, if she can locate like our family records. We all three of us, four of us kids went to St. Joseph Parish. So all of those records are now over in somehow the basements of St. Mary's. So to talk about our own personal records, they're scattered all over depending on what parishes have had last control over them, or and
Bill,
yeah.
I believe that all the sacramental records for churches that have closed are now in the archives. So
Oh,
I know
really?
Angela has had access to a lot of those.
Oh, good.
Why don't you get a Mormon and just have them consult on how to do the whole thing? They're good at that.
Yeah, they are.
By the way, another really nice thing that Angela was able to pull up for me when I was over there was sort of a record, a brief record of St. Joseph's Parish. You know, who all of the pastors and assistant pastors were, and what the growth of the St. Joseph's School, and the number of nuns that were there, and the number of students in some of the early classes. That was kind of interesting, and also ones that related to what happened. I was especially interested in the demolition of St. Joseph's Church, the church building, and we collectively in Muskegon sort of heard. At that point, our family was no longer in the St. Joseph Church or parish, but the only reasons or the actual details of why that building was demolished, she has a record of some of that, and the same thing with what happened to St. Joseph's School. So some of those records are these little summaries that somebody has had to put together, contain that kind of interest. If you're interested in your own parish, she might have that kind of detail depending on who was collecting these records. So back over to you, Jim, one more thing. When I was over at the archives, it looked like there was this big piece of equipment that was used to scan maybe larger documents. Is that what you used or what?
No, Angela would allow me to take those bulletins out, and I have a scanner at home, which I could do it.
Oh, okay.
And so I could crop out a lot of the unnecessary stuff that might otherwise be scanned.
Right.
You might be interested. Angela is also working on a history of all the priests who were ever ordained for Grand Rapids, both living, deceased, and
active. Oh, that would really be.
And she is going to send me a copy of that. If I ever get my hands on it, I'll pass it on to you, because I think that would be of interest to a lot of individuals.
Norm would like that.
And she was able to put together, or somebody put together, a profile of the pastor of our church in St. Joseph's Church in Muskegon. And it kind of got, it was interesting. It had his seminary training, and I knew that he had graduated, or he was part of the class of 1912 or 1914. And after his stint at St. Joseph's, then he was sent to Salzburg for
Germany?
Right. And some priests were from St. Joseph. They were sent to Montreal for their major seminary work. So that's the kind, some of the, and I'm just guessing that she has a lot of kind of little interesting facts about individual priests that, don't show up anywhere else. So she was able to put together that little profile of Father Stratz. And that was kind of interesting, Jim, when you mentioned that records of priests. I looked over the list of assistant pastors at St. Joseph's Church, and I didn't recognize any of those names before around 1950, when there was a Father Hogterp, and there was a whole slew of Hogterps.
There were three brothers. Father was the pastor of Albert in our parish. It was a big reason why I went into seminary.
Yep, and the same dynamic priest. I recognized some of the other assistant pastors, we didn't interact with them very much at all. We didn't interact with the pastor very much, but I recognized some of those names, and like they just sort of have vanished. When they were out of St. Joseph's Parish, nobody was interested or cared or about where they were.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
When you looked at your application to St. Joe's, did you look at the recommendation by the pastor?
That record was not in it, and there was supposed to be a record also of the school that you last attended, or some reference to a letter of recommendation. That wasn't in there. Did you look at your own, or?
I looked at my own, and I had to laugh because my pastor at the time, he was a classmate of my uncle who was a priest, and I served for him all the time. And he says, well, I really don't know him, but I heard he's okay, or something like that. And I thought, how can you not know me? But it was amusing anyways.
Yeah. I was hoping for that kind of stuff too, but it didn't. It didn't show up in the records that Angela put together for me. Okay.
Well,
I was always
St.
curious
Peter will
about.
have your resume, Bill, when you get to the pearly gates. So
Right. Yeah. I sort of felt that when I was maybe in the 6th or 7th grade, that the nuns started grooming me for going to the seminary. I don't only say that because there were certain things that I was part of that other guys in the school were not part of, like a Mother's Day celebration where they had me recite a poem about mothers, and I thought, maybe
you're going to the convent or the seminary.
Right. Well, I don't know. It seemed to me that somebody and I don't want to say it because it was the nuns were the ones that saw us on a daily basis that said sort of, I thought that, well, they might have said, well, that guy looks promising. Little did they know. But I was kind of curious to see what they thought of me at the time, but that doesn't show up in my collection of stuff.
No.
Do you have to give Angela a big notice if you want to look at your records? Do you have to give her a month or?
Oh yeah, I would give her plenty of time just based on what Jim has been saying.
I'm tempted to stop and look at mine.
Now, Jim, just one other thing about those Father Morrow's records. As I understand it, a lot of those archives were stored over in the main building of the seminary. And then when they were moving out of that building, that's when, as I recall it, they had to figure out what to do with physically all those records. I mean, collectively, the archives of the diocese. And that's when Father Denny sort of stepped in and spirited away a lot of that stuff into the halls of his parish. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yes, because all the graduation photos of all the classes.
Right.
Hurley had started throwing those into dumpsters, and Father Den went into the dumpsters to retrieve them and pull them out. So he's credited for saving a lot of those records.
Now, those actual physical photos that, as I understand it, were posted down from the 2nd floor. They were moved down into the refectory.
The refectory. Mm-hmm.
So where did you go to find those?
Initially, they were in one of the buildings over by St. Andrews. It wasn't. They had a number of adjacent buildings over there, and it was in the basement of one of those buildings. And so I obtained a lot of the photos there, and then there were a couple that that I didn't have that I was able to get up in the archives department where they're currently housed.
If Dennis Morrow didn't die, could he have been the bishop of Grand Rapids?
Good question.
Hypothetically, probably not.
He really
But
was dedicated to.
I don't know.
He was dedicated to, the goodness of whoever he worked with. So I was just curious.
And he is a bright guy too.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I'm just talking about the diocese itself too.
Do they typically
anyways.
choose someone who's like the vicar general? Because generally, I think they have their.
Well,
canon
maybe,
law
I don't know,
consent.
but he probably kept the diocese going a lot better than, I mean, having a bishop tell me that they threw I don't know if they have my picture, but if they did, throw it in a dumpster makes no sense. But anyways,
Well, you don't
that's
know
life.
Bishop Hurley then.
Well, I'm saying, why in heaven's name is he running the place?
And back to Jim for a second. Do you have any plans or ideas about stuff that we might be interested in that I mean, we've focused on the bulletins and the recorders, and it seems like we're pretty much down to the bottom of those two areas. But are there
Well,
other stuff that you've run across that might be of interest to us?
There are more of those, as you pointed out, Bill, are not bulletins, but those older issues. I could get more scans of those documents, and some of the recorders and their predecessors. Those are available. I mean, there are a lot of those. Some of those are in bound volumes, and those would be harder to obtain scans.
Right,
Angela
right.
has some equipment where she may be able to do that.
I guess I was kind of curious about things that collectively we were around or could shed some light on our own experiences there at St. Joe's. That I know one, and that the salt shaker. When I was doing that little work on Father Guzikowski, I remember the salt shaker, and that was that weekly public little bulletin that he put out, mimeographed, and Monsignor Stewart was his artist on that. After Father Guzikowski typed up everything on those old mimeograph machines, then he would come in and etch in the little drawings that were usually there's one drawing at the top of the page. You guys remember the
I remember
shaker?
the name. I don't remember much about the content. I wonder, you think for next time, Bill, I thought what you had there with Father Guzikowski and then there's Father Boucher. I was wondering, I could try, I see Frank Unger a little bit, to next time we meet, to make sure he's there. He was in Father Guzikowski's parish in Holton before he came to St. Joe's. And, having Frank there, he might be able to tell you more about him. And there's stuff that you put in that that particular issue that was kind of revealing. So I appreciate it, and the work that others have done too. But it's just a suggestion, because I was thinking, like, he used to Bill left. No, he as I recall, we were always like at 3:30 going to Vespers, and that's when the Lions were playing, and there was like, the score was 10-10 in the third quarter with 3 seconds left and all that, and we had to go to Vespers, and we never knew what the end of the score was. But and Saturday nights he had those meetings, or like he got get-togethers. I'll put them like that. That no one else did, and it seems like it was I think a really good idea. And my point is, though, what was that person like more than maybe Frank knows? So just, you ask for different ideas and impressions and how that affected your life when you were in the seminary.
right, yeah. And we don't usually have any kind of agenda for
Right.
these meetings, but having something sort of planned ahead of time or might spur some additional attendance.
No,
I look,
and I appreciate what has happened tonight too, by the way. So I appreciate the work and what you did, Jim. There's a lot of things you'd help me with, so thank you.
yeah, and way back when we got some of these started, Norb had been in touch with that priest who wrote the book on the youth of being, very young guys that were being brought into the seminaries across the country. That was really well attended, because we had that guy as a sort of a guest speaker, as I recall.
That was a good meeting.
Yeah. So if anybody knows of anybody that would be interesting or some topic, just go ahead and bring it up, or get in touch with somebody and then see if they would be interested in shedding some additional light on our existence and especially the years that collectively we were there, or people that were coming up from our stint in 60 to 66 and into the 70s. I still throw it back to Jim. I'm not quite sure what happened after we left in 66 and into the 70s, what life was like. Some of those bulletins and yearbooks that the guys have brought forward presented some information in there that I've found really kind of interesting. It's another section of the seminary life that I left in 66 and moved to Detroit, so I had very little contact with I had no contact with any of you guys or anything related to this seminary after 1966 until Norb brought together that 2018 big reunion where some of us got together again. So anyway, if anybody has any things that they want to discuss or thought might be of interest to other people, please.
Well, one of the things, Bill, I mean, maybe take this note, but how most of us have been, they're here, or at least in this group, we're in there for 4 or 5 years. And that's in the most, almost the most important part of your life. And how, when you left, how did that affect how you kind of, let's say, ingratiated, or I can't think of the word, it was, socialized into your life again? And what did you use that the seminary taught you? Like, for instance, I went from the seminary to a university that was in, a big peace thing in Vietnam. I was in the army, and then I came out and pursued a degree and ended up with 2 different stints in Turkey and Italy. I was doing this all on my own. I mean, I know my point. I'm not trying to brag, but what do you learn, and what did you take with you, and how did that shape where you ended up? Because you had an impact, all of us have had an impactful kind of education that few people in the world ever gets.
Good point.
Just a question, and as a point of talking about that. Think about it anyways.
Nope.
What we discuss is all reliant on who shows up.
That's true.
And who's interested.
Right.
So, maybe I'll try to put a little excerpt into the information about the next one. By the way, I don't have as always, my calendar is sitting up there on the wall. So, January, how about what's March looking like for people? I'm assuming every other month is easier to deal with than.
Okay.
Yeah,
When does Lent fall?
I hope we're gonna do another reunion in July or August.
That sounds good.
Those were fun.
Yeah.
I liked them a lot.
Is somebody looking at a calendar?
I'm looking at one. What day of the week?
Well, the Mondays always seem to
Okay,
be
Monday.
a good.
All right, there's 5 Mondays in March. The 31st, the last day. I don't know when Easter is. I don't have a, but let's see. There's 3, 10, 17, 24, and 31 hike.
March 10.
10th.
That's my.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can always
Sounds
change
good.
it.
All right.
I'm gonna sign off, Bill. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, I will be signing off too. It's good seeing
Yeah.
you guys again.
Happy New Year's to you all. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Take
Go
care.
Be safe.
Detroit, go all the way, guys.
Right.
Yeah.
January.
Go
I'll
Lions.
be watching.
Well, now we don't have to buy tickets for Bill because he's not here for the Super Bowl. We'll see y'all. Happy New Year.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Adios.